The Rock never stops. Just finished seeing this video about Draymond Green, Jimmy Butler working out together in the summer, working on their bag, working on their game and their chemistry. And I'm kind of excited about it. And I want to talk about that in this video. But before I do, if you enjoy this video, please smash the like button for me. Hit subscribe and the bell for notifications. Smashing the like button is a small thing, but it's a big thing for the channel. So I appreciate all the love and support. And I want to dive into this video. Let me just start off with the reason why I want to talk about this is because I think there are certain players that are not so much anomalies, but they are one of a kind, right? They are unique players who have a different type of skill set than what we generally observe or even talk about in the NBA. Like we talk about shooters, we talk about scorers, we talk about defenders and shot blockers, we talk about facilitators and passers, right? We talk about the Tyrese Halliburtons and the SGAs, right? We talk about the Nikola Jokic and his great touch and he's very cerebral. But one area that we don't always talk about are the connectors. The connectors. And that's a term that I think exemplifies Draymond Green and Jimmy Butler to a T. They are some of the most high-level connectors probably in the history of the NBA. Guys who just seem to make everyone else better. They make the game easy. They make it simple. They create opportunities for others to be able to eat when maybe their skill set, maybe their talent level, maybe wouldn't justify it. They make people look a lot better than what they are. They allow you to get away with maybe not having the most talented roster, but because of their ability to find the open guy, to create advantages, to foresee opportunities, to be able to manipulate the defense or offenses in order to create opportunities for others, it allows them to make the team better. Now, what happens when you have two of them on the same team? What happens when one of those guys are also a high level shot creator? Now, we all know about playoff Jimmy. Playoff Jimmy is about as validated as playoff Rondo, right? Guys who have the ability to raise their level of play to almost superstar levels. Regular season, they kind of look like not regular guys, but probably like a fringe all-star throughout the regular season, right? Not necessarily your all-star, but he's really good, right? More than just a starter, definitely more than a role player, but doesn't necessarily look like a star. But come playoffs, they're a star, if not a superstar. When you look at Jimmy Butler in his game, you recognize that you have a guy who has the ability to raise his level of play when it matters the most. And at the same time, he's able to raise the level of play of everyone else around him. And when I think about what he was able to do in Miami, it makes this Golden State roster make more sense. Now, I know that they're still dealing with the whole Jonathan Kuminga thing. They're still waiting on getting that rectified so they can go ahead and sign Al Horford. And I think there's another veteran that they're trying to add to the roster. I would love for them to figure out how to get Quentin Grimes in there. I think he could be a great compliment. But you still got some nice young guys like Moses Moody. You got Brandon Pajemski, guys like that they're going to be relying upon a lot. You got Quentin Post. You had a pretty good second half of the year. Gui Santos, guys like that. Trace Jackson Davis. They got a lot of role players. But if you think about the Miami Heat, that generally tends to be all they have is a bunch of role players around Jimmy Butler. Now, I know you might say, well, they also had Bam Adebayo. Well, looking at Bam Adebayo and how he looks without Jimmy Butler, it kind of lets you know what they really have. Not saying that he's not a good player, but let's just say Jimmy Butler raised the level of the team to where then Bam could get even more notoriety, could get even more recognition because he's not necessarily the type of polarizing talent that draws your eye. Then when you look at Tyler Hero is a player who, look, he was able to make an all-star team last year. He had a great year, best year of his career. And I respect that. I'm not the biggest fan of him, but I can respect his game. I can respect his talent and his ability. But when I look at this Golden State roster, I see a lot of guys who can do similar things to that makeup of a team. And when you think about the culture of the Miami Heat, their consistency and how they show up day in and day out because of the work ethic, because of their ability to play in and around Jimmy Butler, you begin to see why every single year they were that scary dark horse team that came in somewhere around a 6 seed, 7 seed, 8 seed. But when they got to the playoffs, they always made noise. If Jimmy was healthy, they made noise. Well, now you have Jimmy Butler on the Golden State Warriors, and you got Stephen Curry, one of the greatest players of all time, the greatest shooter of all time, still playing at a superstar level. And then you have Draymond Green, one of the greatest team defenders of all time, positional defenders as well. I think they still have him ranked a little bit too high when I saw some rankings. He's not top 10. Come on. But he's definitely elite. When you think about all the defenders, guys who are known as defenders throughout their careers, he's had one of the great defensive careers in NBA history. Probably top 25 for sure. When you see those two guys defensively on the same team, you also recognize that the impact that they have to raise the floor of your team is also impacted on that end as well. They're able to cover for guys. They're able to direct guys and make sure they're in the right position in real time, which is almost like having that coach on the floor. It allows guys to be able to be in the right position to make the most of their opportunities without having to deal with having to take a timeout in order to reset the guys, right? Get them back focused where they need to be, make a substitution, and try to figure out how to make sure your scheme is operating at a high level. Those two guys on the court together, your defensive system is going to operate at a high level, which raises the floor of guys like Trace Jackson Davis, Quentin Post, Moses Moody, even a Brandon Pajemski, Stephen Curry. You have elite defenders out there who are going to be able to also, with their IQ, ensure everyone is on the same page. Now, when you think about the impact that that could have in this upcoming season, one of the things that we're going to be able to observe is consistency. It's no longer reliant upon Steve Kerr to be that leader, to be that high IQ, X's and O's, scheme motivator. Those two are going to make sure everyone's motivated. Jimmy Butler and Draymond Green are going to make sure everyone is locked in. Jimmy Butler and Draymond Green are going to make sure that the system is running correctly. Whatever was thought of by the coaching staff, they're going to weigh in on for sure. They're going to voice their opinions in the film sessions, in the locker room, in the meetings, and then they're going to execute the hell out of the ball. And you're going to see a team that is going to raise their floor, similar to how the San Antonio Spurs of old, especially when they had Duncan. One of the things that they were renowned for is that they were always going to play at a level 8 or 9 on both ends of the floor for 48 minutes. It didn't matter if it was the end of the bench players in there or the starters, they were going to be at a level 8, 9 in terms of execution, intensity, focus, effort, playing together, culture, right? Competitiveness. They were going to be at that level. So to have a chance to beat them, you were going to have to be at a 9 or 10 every night, which allowed them to win 50 plus games every single year. Now, I'm not saying the Warriors are going to win 50 plus games, but I would not be shocked at all if they end at 48. I would not be shocked at all if they don't end up one of the teams who executes the best in crunch time, who keeps games close, and then they close you out in the end. Knowing that they have one of the elite clutch shot creators, shot makers, and playmakers in Jimmy Butler, one of the elite shooters, scorers in Stephen Curry, guys who they can go to who have a high IQ, who know exactly where everyone needs to be. And now that Jimmy Butler has a full offseason and training camp with these guys, I think they're going to be able to fall in line and know exactly where to be. But most importantly, Jimmy and Draymond are going to have that chemistry. They're going to lead and direct guys. They're going to make sure that communication is at an all-time high, right? Being locked in is at an all-time high. Leadership, check, check. Execution, check, check. Consistency, check, check. Effort, buy-in, connectedness. That's what those two bring in spades. And I think that it's going to create an opportunity for us to see the Golden State Warriors have a bit of a resurgence. They're going to be a team that reminds us of the teams of old. I don't think necessarily from the glory days of their championship runs, but I think it's going to be a team closer to the we believe. Baron Davis, Steven Jackson, Al Harrington, Donald Foyle, Eric Dampier, Jason Richardson, Monte Ellis. They're going to have a bunch of guys who compete, who make you believe in them that if they could just be close enough, they can have a chance. And we're going to see it day in and day out. Now, of course, there's other, things to be figured out in terms of their depth, shot creation off the bench. Maybe Moses Moody takes a jump this year, right? Brandon Pajemski. And if you look at Tyler Hero, I could see Brandon Pajemski being impacted similarly because Jimmy Butler infused confidence into Tyler Hero. And I think he came in confident, but Jimmy Butler made Tyler Hero, he gave him swag. Let me put it that way. I'm not saying he didn't come in with swag, but sometimes you need that dude to validate you. You know what I mean? Like he playing in Miami. He out there, you know what I mean? Like you need somebody to be like, nah, this is my dude. He could hoop. I think Jimmy Butler is going to be able to have that effect on Brandon Pajemski in a way that Stephen Curry and Draymond Green have not been able to. Let's be honest. Draymond Green and Stephen Curry are not exactly the best developmental motivators and confidence builders. They're just not. It's just not who they are. And that's okay. Not everybody needs to be everything. But when you have a floor raiser, a connector like Jimmy Butler, who gives guys confidence to play at a high level, you begin to see that the things that you saw in them, these other collective teammates around a Jimmy Butler, the things that made you excited that they could potentially do, all of a sudden you start to see them more regularly doing it. The shots you thought they could knock down, they knock down. The reads that they're able to make to be able to make the plays that you thought they were going to be able to make when you drafted them, when you signed them, all of a sudden they're making those reads and those plays with regularity because of these connectors and floor raisers. And I think if Jimmy Butler can have a similar impact on a Brandon Pajemski, a Quentin Post, right, a Moses Moody, who, if you watch last season after Jimmy got there, Jimmy was one of the few guys on that roster who actually was intentional about finding Moses Moody, finding Jonathan Kuminga, right? Even though he's not going to be there this upcoming season, more than likely, he was intentional about getting these guys involved, right? Draymond has been a dominant connector for the superstar, Stephen Curry, Klay Thompson, right? So he's going to be able to get Buddy Hield, Stephen Curry going. But they need someone else to get everyone else going. And I think that's going to be Jimmy Butler. And that's going to raise the floor of this team. My outlook for this team is a resurging year. Now, of course, the caveat is always health, right? Knock on wood. It happens. Injuries happen. But can they get Jimmy and Draymond to 65 games? Available for awards, right? All-star, all defensive, right? All these different things. And then can they finish the year healthy? Now, I think the Golden State Warriors are one of the better organizations for getting their team to the finish line, making sure guys are healthy, right? Not gambling as much, not overworking them in practices and things like that. They make sure that you are in optimal health, right? They use a lot of technology and things like that. And they also make it an enjoyable experience where you're learning about your health, right? They have certain advantages within their training facilities and training team that they make the most of. And so I believe that they're going to be able to get Jimmy to the playoffs. They're going to be able to get this team healthy to that finish line. And if they're at 48 wins, shoot, if they are a top 6 seed where they don't have to play in the play-in tournament, that could be a scary team. And don't be shocked if they make some noise in this year's playoffs because of those two. But as always, I want to know what you all think. It's your man 100 Grand Ross with The Rock Never Stops. Smash the like button for me. It's a little thing, but a big thing for the channel. Hit subscribe and the bell for notifications. If you enjoy my videos, definitely put a comment on the video once it posts. I definitely respond and we can have a conversation to continue there. What you think about Jimmy Butler, Draymond Green, and the conversation we had today. As always, make sure you're taking care of yourself. Enjoy some sunshine. Get that vitamin D. Life is to be lived. Enjoy your life. Enjoy this time and make the most of it. I'll holler at y'all next time. Peace.